Well, good morning. How are you all today? And welcome to American Reversion. I'm Steve Smith. Did you watch that Carnival of Clowns last night? The Republican debate? Oh man, I didn't think it was going to be very good, and it was worse than I had anticipated. Uh, what a mess. What a mess. Um, if you didn't get a chance to watch it, um, it's it's all over the place. You can find it, and also if you didn't get a chance to watch Tucker Carlson's interview with Trump, you can find that. Well, I've put it on the Patreon channel if you'd like to watch it. I'm sure you can find it on Rumble or some other place. It's not that hard to find. You'll find it. That was a lot more interesting. Trump said something at the end of that interview, and for the most part, it was a Trump interview. It's amazing to me how much the guy can talk, and you have to watch very carefully. You have to listen very carefully to pick up what he's really saying amongst all the clutter. Okay, there was something, and I'm told that Winston Churchill suffered from what was called cluttering. And I do it myself. Is that I will interrupt myself many times. I speak parenthetically. I speak with a lot of commas. I will go off on this. I understand that I do that. It's just because when your mind is running, quite a bit faster than your mouth does, you get in some trouble like that. Well, Trump does that all the time. Now he might be doing it on purpose. I don't know, but you have to listen very carefully. And so Tucker's interview with him was, typical Donald Trump. I mean, he's talking a lot. You got to watch that. It's like a shell game. You got to watch it very carefully, and then try to pinpoint when he comes out with exactly what he's saying, even though he doesn't say it. Anyway, he said something at the end. Let me mark this down. I will try to remember this. I've got two monitors going on behind you there because we don't know what time Trump is going to turn himself in. And just in case he does while we're doing this, I'll see it and let you know. So I will remember. Okay, but before it started last night, I wrote down several things. The first off, number one, my question was, can any of these people win the primary or the general? No, absolutely not. After watching these people last night, none of them should have been up there. I'll be honest with you. I mean, if this is what we've got, we're in a sadder state than I thought. There were a couple of sharp people, and I'm going to cover that. The second one that I put up, can any of them be vice president? And I was hoping to be able to say, yeah, this one. No, none of them. None of them can be vice president. None of them even approach the level of what it would take to be a decent vice president for Donald Trump or anyone else. Yeah. Okay. Then I wrote down winners. I put down columns: winners, losers, and who came out even, meaning that they neither hurt themselves nor helped themselves. Should I start with the losers? Yeah. Let's start with the losers. Mike Pence. Pence came out of the gate looking bitter, sounding bitter, grumpy old grandpa, right? He's like Spencer Tracy after a drunk night out. I'm sure Mike doesn't drink. He's always careful to remind you of what a moral person he is. Pence, he started out low and dug himself lower, if at all possible. He came out with personal attacks. Yeah, Mr. Moral, right? Personal attacks. I mean, out of the gate. And these were not in response to anything anybody had said to him. These were just out there. Nikki Haley. Man, I tell you, I just realized that my mic was on the table here instead of fixed to my shirt. Well, maybe that meant that you didn't have to hear my coffee gulp that loud. We'll just let this run and see how it works. Okay, Haley, she she is the most, well, they all love to pat themselves on the back, right? But she is the most superior sounding. Now, apparently, I was not a fan of hers as the governor of South Carolina at all. Some people are, I wasn't. She did stand up on a few occasions when she was ambassador to the UN, speaking on behalf of our country. But you know, it's not difficult to occasionally come out with some good quotes that everybody says yes, but you have to take these people as a totality. And as a totality, Nikki Haley just doesn't have it. She also comes off as snarky, and that's the other thing I was going to say about Pence. He was snotty, he was snarky, he was, I tell you, and I tried to find, after I'd written this down, I came across, because I've been going through a bunch of news aggregators here, I came across the Drudge poll on who they thought won and who blah blah blah. It was almost exactly what I put down here. Okay, so Haley, she's out. She shouldn't even be out there. She does get the award for the most sexist comment last night, and sadly, it's going to play to a certain demographic. And she said that she was quoting Margaret Thatcher, which I believe she was, and she said, well, like Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman. Okay? You know, and I'm sure that got just all sorts of fist bumps and yay from a lot of the ladies, not you all here because you're real women, but a lot of the mediocre women out there in the world, you know, who sadly decide so many of our elections, and their mediocre male counterparts. But she's like the fourth grade teacher who was always shaking her finger at you, and you can tell there's not much there. Okay, but she's gonna tell you all about it. Chris Christie, that lump of lard. I tell you, if he can get any worse, I don't know how it is. You know, I mean, I understand that the guy was a fairly sharp, apparently, U.S. attorney, and at a point he was a bulldog in some ways. He was also, you know, there's a lot fishy about Christie, and everybody knows that. But he hates Donald Trump so much. This is his reason for running. Well, maybe there's not. I think all of them are up there because they have fallen prey to the whisper in the ear from those who are close around them. You know, their wives, their husbands, their little cadres who want to keep them going because, you know, their little minions. Let's see, we'll get, nope, okay, not yet. Their little minions know that as long as they're in the game, the minion's getting some bucks, right? He gets to travel, he gets to do stuff, he gets to carry suitcases, he gets to get paid, all of this. So all of these people are up there because people in their little circle, in their little world, you know, the little guppy in the farm pond who thinks that he's the big fish, they've told him, you would make a good president. The country needs you, Asa. The country needs you, Chris. You know, and the country's ready. You know, people are like that, and people fall for it. So you know that's what he's all about. He hates Trump so much, and he'd love to be president, and he sees himself as a tough guy, and he doesn't see himself as the rest of the world sees him. But he hates Trump because Trump never gave him a good job of any sort. He came out first, but Christie's one of those wishy-washies. He kisses up, and then and he was a great defender of Trump, and then when Trump decided not to give him any cushy job, well, all of a sudden he hates Trump, right? And I'm sure there's a lot of that New York, New Jersey stuff going on in the background. Another loser, Asa Hutchinson. Probably not many people in the country know much about Hutchinson. He comes off as this nice old grandfatherly, thoughtful, solid, elder statesman, with that drawl. I think it was he who said something kind of funny. I'm not sure. I'll get back to that in a second. The good old boy, when I was governor of Arkansas and all that. Somebody said when they were talking about the time, and somebody, I think it might have been him, said, well, some of us talk more slowly than others. I told Kelly, I says, that's true. They ought to give Northerners 60 seconds and Southerners 90 seconds. It takes us longer to say what we're going to say. No, they shouldn't. So those are the losers. Pence, Haley, Christie, and Hutchinson. Now, who came out even, neither bettered themselves nor worsened themselves? Tim Scott. Tim Scott seems like a nice guy. He has the right message. He made sure to mention a couple of times that he was, brought up by a single mom in great poverty. That works on a local level and a state level. That gets old on a national level. Okay, look, good for you, good for your mom. We understand this, but people, they're not out there. Well, some are. Some of our people who vote are driven by guilt. But as far as looking for a leader, you want somebody who had a hard row to hoe. Who was it? Gosh, I won't take your time here, but some of you will know he was a Democrat senator. He spoke at the Republican convention many years ago. He was rock solid conservative. He was so poor that his mother actually built themselves a hut to live in by carrying rocks up from the stream. What was his name? Some of you all will know. I could look it up, but I'm not going to take your time. That's an impressive story. There are a lot of impressive stories. Clarence Thomas, you want an impressive story? Clarence Thomas. But it gets old when people stand up. Now, this guy's been a senator for 10 years. As time, I think by now you can represent yourself with your positions and your vision for the country and things like that. You don't have to be coming back on I was raised in great poverty by a single mother. That gets old. It reduces, it increases your credibility with the wrong people, and it reduces the respect the right people have for you. Tim, just a word of advice. Think America needs a reversion? Yeah, I do too. Burgum, what in the world was he doing there? North Dakota governor. Okay, seemed like a nice enough guy. I don't know much about him. I don't know anything about him. I know he's the governor of North Dakota, and his name's Burgum. All I could look at him, and he broke his leg playing basketball or something earlier in the day, and I'll give him props for showing up, and standing there. Maybe he was on painkillers. Maybe he was dulling his mind. I don't know. But he came out with some very unexciting lines, and towards the end, and And like I say, maybe it was the painkillers, but at the end, it looked like he didn't even know where he was. He didn't want to be there. Let's see here. Okay, not yet. But the whole time as I looked at him, I kept expecting him, and this was his excitement level. I told Kelly that I kept expecting him to say, Bueller, Bueller. And she laughed and she says she thought the same exact thing. So no, I don't know what he's doing there. Okay. Huge disappointment. I didn't put him in the losers. I kept him in even because I don't have a high opinion of him anyway. Ron DeSantis. DeSantis. This guy, you know, he reminds me of Alfred E. Newman. Remember Mad Magazine? Okay. He has a couple of good points, but like I've said before, he was a good manager. He was a good manager as a governor in Florida. He was a good congressman. You know, he was a good conservative congressman. Got the governor. I'm glad what he's done with Florida. He needs to stay in Florida. I don't know if he'll ever be ready for prime time. I think he shot himself in the butt over this by moving too quickly, and he may never recover from it. If he hadn't done this, I think it would have taken him another 10 or 12 years to be ready, because his demeanor is not that of a leader. Okay, he remember that I said yesterday. I says that at the beginning when he first started coming out, you know, of not coming out, but when it first the idea first started to bubble up that he might be in the running for this, and this has been 3 or 4 years ago. You know, the story was put out there that he was a SEAL, and I said that's a bunch of crap. He wasn't. He was a JAG officer. Now, as I said yesterday, remember this guy. Okay, he went to Yale. He was in one of the secret societies. Which one was it? Which it wasn't Skull and Bones. It was I don't remember. It wasn't the one the Bushies were in, but it was one of them. And then he went to Harvard Law, graduated Harvard Law, went into JAG in the Navy. And then he was assigned, I think he was stationed at Guantanamo, but he was assigned as the legal eagle for SEAL Team 1 in Iraq. He made sure to mention that a couple of times last night. Just like Tim Scott never gets too tired of talking about how he was raised poor and by a single mother. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that Biden would do. Right? Tim, stop it. If you want, you're going to be a senator for the rest of your life. And let me go back to him for just a second, because it reminds me what I'm going to say about DeSantis. He has the air of kind of with his chin up and his almost his wide eyes and his vacant look. In many cases, it's almost like he's looking for approval. Well, he's gotten approval from so many people. I mean, he's a black senator, which makes him a star in the Republican Party, right? And amongst many people, he's the one they're able to look at and say, look, we're not racist. We have a senator. But he just doesn't have the bearing of a leader. Neither does DeSantis. And that's why he throws in this junk about, when I was put over there and I was assigned to the SEALs. Yeah, he did that twice. And he also, like I say, it reminds me of Alfred E. Newman. He might be ready years from now if somebody would say, you need to correct how you come off. Because he'll get up there and he'll get these wide eyes like this, like a little kid who's lying to you. But I don't think he's lying. I mean, I think he's projecting his thoughts. But he has a whiny voice. He does not project strength. He projects a guy who is going to run a meeting well. Does that make sense? So DeSantis is never going to be, in my opinion, certainly not this time. He's got to grow up. Probably a smart guy. Obviously smart guy. Yale, Harvard Law, obviously a smart guy. So, you know who I've left out, right? The losers were Pence, Haley, Christie, Hutchinson. They drew even with Scott, Burgum, and DeSantis. And that leaves the one that I wrote down as a winner, Ramaswamy. Now, before I say what he did well, let me say this. Okay. Oh, mass shooting at a California biker bar. That's all right. Okay. That's just called a Wednesday night. Before I go into what he did well, there's no way he could be president because of his demeanor. He's got the smarts. Or any kind of vice president. We'll look into that in a second. But he is smart. He is, he knew what he was talking about. He said all the right things. He sounded like Ronald Reagan on steroids. I think everything he said was on the money, including he had a whole bunch of great quotes. I jotted down two. He said something like this. I just wrote down a couple of words that would remind me. He said, all the rest of these are up here for whatever. He says, I'm for revolution. He's right. I'm for revolution. Now, this guy doesn't have any experience, right? He's a businessman. Who else have we had who didn't have any experience in politics who was a businessman, right? So I don't take anything away from him for that at all. Matter of fact, I would put that in the positive column for him. But he also said something that really ticked off the others, probably because it hit so close to home, close to the truth. He says, I'm the only one up here who's not bought and paid for. He's a very intelligent guy, super intelligent guy, very well spoken. Self-made millionaire, right? Built his business, which I don't, I would have to look more into what these other guys have done. I'm not going to say that none of them have, but this guy did it. And of course, Pence used that to be a snark again. Pence took a shot at him. I don't think anybody. They had asked some question about should there be a test for cognitive ability. Obviously referring to Biden and age, which was a kind of a hook shot around Trump probably. And Pence said, I don't think we should elect a president who's too old, nor should we elect one who's too young. And of course, that was a shot directly at Ramaswamy. Now, here's the problem with Ramaswamy. As smart as he is, again, it comes down to demeanor. And everything he said, he talked so fast, he didn't back up at all. He had an answer for everything. He and Nikki Haley went at it a couple of times, and he took her to the cleaners. But the thing is, he did everything with such a smile. He came off as a real smart aleck, and in that way, now I'm not sure if I should go there or not. Well, anyway, he was the happy warrior, but he was too happy about it. Okay, he was just. He'd just be taking it to these people and smiling the whole time and leaning back and smiling. That's not the kind of demeanor we look for in a president, okay, or any kind of leader. It's the kind that we look for in a poop stirrer, right? It's good to have one of those guys that'll go out there and just egg everybody on and get people wound up and all that. Yeah. But it's not leadership. And had he said everything that he said with a serious look and a look of determination and a look of righteous indignation and anger and passion for America and all this, it would have worked, I think. It would have worked. It didn't in this case, and he didn't. He came out the winner as far as I'm concerned, but that cost him. You can't be president or vice president with that kind of attitude. Okay, now to bring this to a conclusion, I got just a few minutes. The interesting thing was, and apparently President Trump hasn't turned himself in yet. You know, they're not going to make an announcement because, I mean, for security issues. He said he's going to go in today. This is Thursday. So I think it's Thursday, isn't it? It's the bane of retirement. You don't know what day it is. But if yesterday was Wednesday, this has to be Thursday. You know, I did think, okay, he's got 4 indictments. He's 46 points up over his next, over the closest one to him, who is DeSantis. 46 points up. If he gets 5 more indictments, he'll win the primary, flat out, because his numbers go up every time he's indicted because people understand what's going on. Okay, now at the end of Tucker's interview with him, Tucker asked an interesting question that we've talked about, but I was surprised that Tucker did, because it really didn't follow along with the previous, I think the interview was 46 minutes, something like that. It didn't follow along with the previous 40 minutes. And yes, we know that the Wagner head went down in a plane crash. So they say. So they say. Just out of nowhere, Tucker asked him. He says, "Do you think there could be a civil war?" And you know, Trump started with one of his Trump answers about, you know, kind of, you know, dancing around it. And Tucker said, "Well, do you think there could actually be conflict, physical conflict?" Trump said this after dancing around some more. He said, at January 6th, he said he had never been in a place to where he felt such love of country among so many people, a united love of country. And also such a hatred for what's going on with our country. And he said that is I don't remember if he called it dangerous, but something along that lines. That is a very bad, or that's a dangerous combination. I agree. I think most of you all do too. So anyway, that's my take on the debate, the news today, and let me know what you think. By the way, share this, would you? Share these videos with people that you think might be interested in it. We're coming into the season, and it's going to be an interesting season talking about politics. And the more that we can talk about it, and the more that we can get other people involved and kind of listening and seeing what's going on, well, that's our duty, isn't it? Isn't it our duty as American citizens to do what we can to get the word out, to discuss these things, and to try to educate other people and bring them into the fold so that we can perhaps get this thing straightened out and, you know, get to a reversion. But today's news is going to be President Trump turning himself in. That'll be interesting. I hope that he says something afterwards. I hope he has a little speech, but we will see. I'll watch, and when it happens, I'll come back on and talk a little bit about that. So you all have a good day. Remember, America needs a reversion. It needs you to be a part of it. So Have a great one, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.